later in this episode.
Yeah, it can be scary.
It can be scary.
Yeah.
And fear is not humanity's greatest friend, obviously.
Usually
so,
isn't.
no, exactly. It does take a certain amount of courage and willingness and also persistence to go down this road. And we look at the whole picture. Far more power and strength and creativity within us than we're aware of. And I often see that as well in my practice. Like clients come in and feel like, oh my God, I've been stuck with this for so long. I'm not even that confident that it can change or that I can change. And just reconnecting people to what's going on in their body, because some people are completely disconnected. As I sometimes say, a head on legs.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
In this episode, I sit down with holistic coach Mirjam to explore the concept of purpose, how to discover it, align with it, and create a fulfilling life. Fascinated by human behavior and the search for meaning, Mirjam studied psychology at VU Amsterdam before expanding her expertise with training in life and career coaching, neurolinguistic processing, and systematic work. Her passion for exploration has led her to travel over 80 countries, enriching her perspective and coaching approach. Tune in for an inspiring conversation.
What are some negative beliefs that, let's say, many people experience?
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Or I can't. I cannot, which is extremely disempowering, obviously. And the I am good enough is I think, the most prevalent negative belief that I think pretty much everybody is carrying along in life.
No, for sure. I mean, there's happens to, unfortunately, too many people, right? That
For sure.
And in the end, also, if they face the challenges and if you talk with them about it, turns out they can handle them.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's also some aspect of self-fulfilling prophecy in there, where if you tell yourself that you cannot do certain things, then of course you won't be able to do it, because you also don't recognize the opportunities where there are some situations that would give you the tools to handle these things, but you just can't see them.
I know, exactly. That's how the brain works. But it's also interesting because that's another principle of holistic coaching as well, that it's all connected. Like if you have to believe I'm not good enough, you're going to attract situations. And again, that's energy. You're going to attract situations in your life that are going to prove exactly that, or that are going to challenge you to surpass that belief and create a new one.
Yeah, and then usually those beliefs that are created from a place where you already have negativity within you are not the positive ones.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it ties into, say you have this belief, I'm not good enough. Some people, to compensate for that painful belief, start working really hard to prove themselves, like something like perfectionism that a lot of people struggle with, especially women, I feel. Also ties into that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening on the behavioral level as well that ultimately stems from a certain negative belief, that ultimately stems from the messages you've gotten repeatedly as a child.
Yeah.
Which most people are, of course, not at all conscious about anymore. But it's still, I see it as like it's like a certain programming in the system. It's like a little bit of a virus maybe in the system.
Like almost like echoes from the past that are still haunting you.
It is, for sure. And we are still influenced by that because, as you know as well, I think a lot of our behavior doesn't come from... We feel we're making conscious choices, but a lot of it is not necessarily conscious.
A lot of
it's more like automatic.
Yeah, automatic programming through behavior experiences we had before.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's also where holistic coaching again comes in. One thing that is really key in my approach is creating awareness. And once people experience that they're more than their patterns, more than their emotions, more than their body, than their thoughts, then, hey, suddenly there's the opportunity arises to make different choices. You can actually make conscious choices and steer in a different direction. You don't have to go on the autopilot anymore.
Yeah. So you also just help people find like their direction, their aims.
100%. Yeah. That's like I mentioned before, a lot of my clients, that's actually that I've kind of specialized in a little bit. I've also written an ebook on how to find your purpose. Developed my own method for that, for instance, because there's so many people that are lacking direction. And I believe we are all meant to do something. And it also makes perfect sense, right? I mean, you have a certain potential to fulfill a certain purpose.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense.
Those are really hard to find if you don't have the right direction, right?
100%. And you're going to try things and you're going to learn from that and bring that. And it's all experience and very well. But I mean, it's basically crucial. In my view, a lot of problems arise if the wrong people are in the wrong place. You know? If what you're doing is not aligned to your unique potential and your purpose, it's going to create problems.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that
it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's going to wear you out. It's going to feel like something is missing. It's going to make you feel detached at a certain point. Like, or there's a lot of people go through life feeling like I'm actually meant to do something else, or there's something greater that I'm meant to do.
No, it sounds like this kind of space in these situations is like the breeding ground for things like burnout and people that have a midlife crisis and all of these things.
In my view, most definitely.
Yeah.
And burnout, of course, is a perfect example where there's always a mismatch between the person and that person's work environment when it comes to burnout. However, it's not necessarily about being in the wrong career. Yes, that may be. Yeah. But with burnout, of course, there's much more going on. There's also certain old patterns and survival mechanisms that are playing a role that you also have to address.
Yeah. So it's also, again, some things that may, especially what you mentioned now with the survival mechanisms, those can be also traced back to bodily things that you just do because of the evolution which happened to us. And some of these things that we are supposed to do for, let's say, threats from the past, we're now doing in environments where they're not really functional anymore.
Exactly.
And just create a dysfunctional mechanism.
Yeah.
This
is, you needed that mechanism to be able to survive. That sounds a little bit like extreme, but as a child, that was the case. However, because we're not necessarily conscious of those mechanisms, they just come with us through life. And if we don't look at those mechanisms in the eye and and basically start healing them and transforming them, there comes a point in life where you're gonna get stuck and hit a wall.
Yeah.
And usually that happens with something like burnout.
I also have another question for you. And let's say, if you want to summarize it, what are like some key principles that make holistic coaching different from other types of coaching?
I would say the purpose thing is one important one, because I feel that there's people within coaching, people, of course, look at talents and drives and values, and that's all important, but purpose goes a little bit further than that.
A bit deeper.
Yeah, a bit deeper, I would say. The thing that everything is connected. Your thoughts are connected to your... one thought can trigger a very specific reaction in the body. But thoughts also give rise to emotions. And then emotions can give rise to more thoughts because we don't want to experience those emotions. And then the spirit ties in with all of that. And energy is moving within our system and all of that. So everything is connected, but also we are connected to other people.
I think something to summarize that feeling up pretty well is, I think I've experienced for sure, maybe other people have too, where you walk down the street and you think like, this over there is a person that I know, and you haven't seen this person like 5 or 10 years, and it was really meaningful to you. And then you can feel all these things bubbling up within your body, but then you realize, it's not even this person. And you're stuck with this feeling of like in your body did so many things at the same time.
Totally.
It's a great way to summarize like really the thoughts and I cannot stress this enough, but you are deeply interconnected with the mind and the body.
100%. Yeah. And again, that's all energy, because it's ultimately energy that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And also, there's certainly more coaches that are adopting this principle, I'm sure. But like for me, also the fact that we create, it's my view, but still, that we create our own reality as well. We are born creators. We're such creative beings, and I don't mean creative in the sense of artistic, but just we have this awesome power. And I don't think we're aware of our hidden potential as much as we can be.
Yeah.
There's far more power and strength and creativity within us than we're aware of. And I often see that as well in my practice. Like clients come in and feel like, oh my God, I've been stuck with this for so long. I'm not even that confident that it can change or that I can change.
And that probably comes also back from a spot.
Gets me excited.
Yeah, also comes probably back from a spot of purpose and meaning, which is usually also then lacking in a spot where you don't do the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's important that you're the creator of your own reality. So you have this power, and I want to help people become more aware of that and just harness that power in the right ways. And ultimately, like I said before, I think we benefit if we all are in doing what we are supposed to do more or less, and we're all connected to deeper levels. The world would look very different, right? If we would all operate from spirit instead of from ego.
I mean, if everybody would be, let's say, only 10% happier.
Oh my God.
I mean, the world would be so different.
Totally. So that's basically, that's like sort of my ideal view as well. Like if we could all operate from that place of more love and less fear, that would be great.
Are there maybe some misconceptions where, let's say, a client or some people you talk to usually have about holistic coaching?
Definitely, yeah. I've had quite a few clients who were somehow attracted by my profile on the GORT website, but then also had some doubts about, is this not too spiritual? And I get that, but I'm very down to earth about it. I hope you experience that as well, talking to me in this podcast. But I think a common misconception is, oh, this is only for spiritual people.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Or this is, as we say in Dutch, zweverig. It's like up in the air.
Yeah.
It's actually very down to earth and rooted in this earthly life, you could say. I mean, yes, the spiritual level is very much part of our existence, but we also have this purpose that we can choose to fulfill here, and it's a very concrete thing.
Yeah. I mean, even many people say the same things about psychology in general and therapy, where they say, but like, what does it really do? It's not really doing anything.
It can totally change somebody's life. I mean, in very profound ways. Yeah, or of course the age-old notion that if you go to a psychologist, then you must be crazy. With coaching it's less so, but still I find that, again, like I mentioned before, somehow we've gotten the message that we have to be able to do it ourselves. And sometimes it's just it's much wiser to ask for some assistance.
I mean, there's probably also in a way some cultural thing where
maybe
Netherlands is quite, I mean, in international comparison, individualistic.
Oh yeah.
And of course there you have more freedom in a way, but at the same time it gives you so much more responsibility to yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
You are now the sole creator in some way of your whole life and everything you do and touch. And that puts you in the driver's seat and really tells you, well, if you don't do it, nobody else will.
Yeah. So, and what does that lead to? You can already predict people having a sense of failure again. Like, oh my God, having to keep up with, like you said, this is a very individualistic society. I agree with that. I also believe that the focus is very much on work, on presteren, on having to do well, So, and if there's so much knowledge out there now, So if now you are find yourself in trouble, find yourself stuck, or not really feeling as happy as you could be feeling, it can easily lead to a notion of failing.
Yeah.
And then you have an added problem.
On top of
what you're already experiencing.
Yeah.
So that's also a byproduct, I think, of today's society as well. But that's a whole different, whole different conversation.
That is true. I mean, definitely. But I think also something where maybe holistic coaching or coaching in general for people that don't have their purpose set in yet, I think can be something really interesting to look into, because, well, if you have all the responsibility but you don't have the aim or the goal yet, that's very difficult.
Exactly. And let's not make purpose even the main focus. Purpose is part of holistic coaching, in my view. It's not everything. It's much more than that. Also, it doesn't have to be the purpose. A purpose is already great.
Yeah.
A purpose that aligns more with who you are at a deeper level and what you want in life.
No, I mean, that's also very true, because when there's so many different aspects, right? You can have
100%.
A purpose in, let's say, your family. You can have a purpose in everything else you do in your career. And I think at least having one of those pretty set for you, and that's already a great help with it.
I think so too, exactly. I think it's actually pivotal. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask this. Can you maybe also share just a success story you had within your coaching that you had with someone?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I remember one client, a female client, this was a few years ago. I'll try to make the example anonymous as much as I can, sure. Obviously, 100%. You know, it's important in our profession. But she came to me feeling disconnected from her work, just disengaged in general with the world, a little depressed, deeply insecure. And she was in the music world, you could say. She had a musical profession. And as the coaching progressed, it became very clear that was not something that she had chosen herself.
I see.
This was something that she was pushed to do, you could say, by her parents, specifically her mother. So as such, she had trouble. She was not just unhappy in that line of work. She also had trouble to motivate herself because the motivation was not internal, but external, which is, of course, not something you want. And then she was feeling really tired and had all these symptoms, thoughts racing all the time. So we worked on all of that. And she ended up choosing a completely different life for herself. Like she enrolled in a course, something to do with writing. She went abroad to do volunteering in an orphanage, I think, because that's something she'd always wanted to do. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, I got both the inspiration and the necessary tools to really act on a dream that I have, and now I'm actually leading the life I want.
Yeah,
it's making me even feel all sorts of things. Still, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and she did it. Like I helped her, but of course she did it.
That I mean, that's also kind of what it boils down to, right? You have these conversations with somebody else, and you really try to just help them take what is already within them, and exactly.
That's also what I meant earlier. I help people tap into their own uncharted potential, basically.
Yeah. That's so nice.
And they have to do the work. I mean, I can help them, but that's also one misconception maybe sometimes about coaching, that the coach is going to do it for you. Yeah. I will give 200%, and I will open up everything I know and have, and all these tools I can give you, but you have to do the work.
Yeah,
that's always true.
Yeah, it has to stem from, again, it comes also back to
if it's not from within you, it's not from like, let's say, the your own spirit doing the thing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That also ties back to this very ancient saying of, well, you can give a hungry man a fish, right? And then he ate for a day.
Yeah.
If you teach him how to fish, he's never gonna be hungry.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah, that's it.
I think that also comes back to the self-awareness. I think where many people just lack a lot of like what's happening with me.
Definitely.
And how you have also probably some clients coming to you with self-awareness issues.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some trend within that, or is there something that you've experienced from people that struggle with that?
I don't know if there's a trend going on, but I mean, self-awareness, of course, is again crucial.
Mm-hmm.
You can only make conscious choices in life if you have appropriate self-awareness. You need to know who you are, and from that, what you want and what direction you want to take in life. And also, as I said before, those conscious choices become possible once there is self-awareness. You have to ask yourself the question, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So say somebody is dissatisfied with their career, right? This happens a lot. A lot of people are not that content with their job. Okay, so why are you doing that? Why are you in that line of work? Why are you doing that job?
Yeah.
Why are you dissatisfied? Start with that. Why are you doing the things the way you are doing things? It's a very important question to ask yourself, to kind of maybe zoom out a little bit and monitor yourself every now and then. I had another client who was like, oh my God, during the coaching, she became aware of how these old patterns basically manifested in all these different situations in her life. She's like, oh shit, that's that again.
Yeah.
And now I know why I'm doing that. It's just something old, basically. Oh, now I can make a conscious decision to do something different.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting to observe yourself that way as well.
Yeah, it's almost taking a bird's eye view of like your own self.
Exactly that.
Nice.
Exactly that.
I think on this note, something funny that happened to me the other day is a friend of mine started a new job and he really, really didn't like it. And he really knew very early on that I think he told me 2-3 days was like, yeah, this is not for me. And he is actually called me like a week after and told me already that, he just immediately started quitting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's really, I find it so, I mean, knowing him, it's really himself.
Yeah.
He's somebody who's really in touch with what he wants and where he wants to be.
Yeah.
And I think it is quite encouraging to see that, even something that sounds so out of the ordinary, oh no, he did it within this 1 week. Actually, I thought about it and was telling him, man, I'm so proud of you that you did it. Because you stand up to your own values.
At least you're true to yourself.
Yeah. Like he's really in touch with him. And that is, I found it quite inspiring to me.
Totally. That's self-leadership as well, I think. And I think that's an important point that you raised. It's also about staying true to your own potential, as well as to your own beliefs and your own values. That is something that's authentic living.
I think you also mentioned that after he quit, that was the best day he had within like the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
But it's also interesting. It can also work the other way around, because I've had clients who were adamant that they needed a new job. They came in and they were like, oh my God, I'm dying. I can't do this any longer. But then we started working together and they started adopting a different mindset. Their energy changed. They adopted a different perspective towards their job. So, which resulted in them showing up differently within the same job. Which then led to them not quitting at all, but just going to work with, a sense of pleasure, of joy again. That's also possible.
Even without those radical steps, right?
For sure,
self-align.
because I think it's a pitfall. I've actually refused to clients once who said, "Yeah, I just need a new job, and you know, can you help me find it? This and this and that." And I said, "Well, you know, yes, but unless you're also willing to work on the underlying patterns that make you get stuck within that job, that make you hit that wall." Because you will always bring yourself to a new job. So if you don't tackle that, then you'll be fine for a little while, and then the same things start happening again. It's like in a relationship, you have to evolve in that sense. That's also self-awareness.
Because then you just carry the same problems.
100%. That's like
into the next job and into the next opportunity.
For sure, that's a relief of symptoms, maybe temporarily, but then it starts because there are patterns underlying that. You have to look at those.
Yeah, exactly.
You do.
Yeah.
So in this case, your friend probably then, you know, was on a different track, but that can also manifest differently.
No, for sure. I think that there's many ways how these kind of things can all fall into place and manifest. But I think where would you then say can be holistic coaching, especially for like purpose, or not necessarily just purpose, but for the drive of aligning yourself, be even of more aid than, let's say, other approaches?
That's a difficult question. How can holistic coaching be of more aid to...
Let's say with like finding your inner compass.
Because it answers to all of these different levels of our existence, like I said. So basically, you have a complete approach, which doesn't mean, of course, that you're gonna, you know, address every problem that people struggle with, or you can only do so much. How would you define holistic coaching in a short sentence? Short is difficult in my case. I'm not one of few words. It's a logical question to ask. It's not easy to define holistic coaching. There's no generally accepted definition. But to me, it is about... I look at the bigger picture, basically. I look at the whole person. So not just if somebody comes in and has problems related to fear or recurring thought patterns that makes them unable to sleep at night, whatever. We look at the whole picture and how does everything tie in. Or people who are stuck in their career, for instance, or are experiencing burnout. And of course, want to alleviate that. I don't just focus on their particular goals with them. I adopt a broader perspective, and I go deeper, but also beyond. So I understand that this sounds a little abstract, but a translation I can make is that we look at the mental level, what's happening within their thoughts? What are some of their limiting beliefs, for instance? What's happening on the emotional level? Is there maybe old pain that is still getting in the way? Fear, of course, that we already touched upon. I look at the energy level. What's happening with the energy in their body? What is the energy with which they intend to do things? What's the energy they bring to work, for instance? But also the spiritual level. Are they doing something that ties in with what they find meaningful, for instance, and that aligns with their values, with their strengths, with their deeper drives that they are often not aware of themselves. So we do all of that.
Yeah, that's basically a lot of things.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's like I sometimes compare it to when I speak to people. And sometimes already when I read like the intake forms, it's like a web already spinning where I can see the connections and how everything all ties in. So it's also a matter of creating awareness for the client, and then from there make a move.
It's basically like you look at all the different components that, let's say, make the human experience manifest. And then you take all of the components as seriously as you can, like, let's say, the mind, the body, the interaction of it, the spirit. And then you try to really integrate all of these parts.
Exactly. We intervene at every level. So it can even be as simple as a physical level. I've had a client once who was dealing with like panic, fear, strong fear, panic. And then we delved into that, and it turned out that he started his day with like half a liter of coffee.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, maybe there's a relation here that he was not aware of. So, we came up with how about halving that or changing it to decaf or whatever. And he immediately felt a change.
Yeah, there was probably some anxiety related with
totally.
that.
Yes,
assume,
of course. But I mean, it all works together. So that's also an intervention at the physical level, like nutrition, but also breathing, of course, and just reconnecting people to what's going on in their body, because some people are completely disconnected. They're like as I sometimes say, a head on legs.
That's a good way to put it, actually. Yeah.
Whereas that body, there's so much there. It's telling us, it's continuously speaking to us as a spirit, which is working through our body.
So you said also, you mentioned breathing. What, for example, is something where, let's say, breathing, some people may do wrong or some have it wrong.
A lot of people, if you start paying attention to it, a lot of people, I'm not a breathing or breathwork expert, by the way, but a lot of people have very high breathing. It's not actually coming from here. It should be coming from down here, the belly, slow. But lots of people are breathing here or like here. So I mean, that's usually a sign of stress.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that ties back to, I mean, on a more scientific level, right, to the vagus nerve that is going to be influenced by that. And that has a strong connection with the brain and the transmitters that are elicited by it.
Yeah.
And so even within, let's say, cognitive psychology, I think a lot of aspects is the stimulation of the vagus nerve can calm you down. Is usually also used as a technique for people that experience anxiety. You tell them, take deep breaths from the belly.
Yeah, that's actually true. I didn't even think of that, but it's true. Yeah,
it's crazy, right?
For sure. So again, it's all connected, right? I mean, because if you calm your breathing down or your body, or you pay attention to what's going on in the body, then you find that your thoughts are probably going to calm down as well. But of course, there's many more reasons why one can worry, and I mean, negative beliefs are also very powerful.
Yeah.
So we usually work on that because that's one way that people tend to sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
So so there's intervention on all these different levels, basically.
But maybe you look in every corner.
You do.
Yeah.
It's like that web that I said, but it's also because it is really. Once you start talking about spirit and about purpose, you're really operating on a deep level. And I believe that if you come from that level, the changes that are going to happen are probably more durable, more sustainable, you could say, because you are touching upon somebody's core, somebody's essence, essentially. Somebody's higher self, as some people call it.
Yeah. No.
See what I'm saying?
No, for sure. Because many of these questions, also when you say people carry different behaviors into different situations.
Yeah.
Well, they probably are also many times related to the same root cause.
Yes.
Like you said, also where
exactly.
you have not only the behaviors you do within your job, but also within your relationship, when you encounter new situations.
Exactly.
These are all things that will inevitably influence all these aspects.
You couldn't be more right. That's it. And it's not as, even though holistic coaching looks at the whole picture and the whole person. So even though holistic coaching looks at the bigger picture, it doesn't mean that you're going to address all of those things. But you'll find that within each one of us, there's usually there's a few core beliefs, a few core themes, you could say, that we all struggle with.
Yeah.
So
no, I think
we don't have to make the picture more complicated than it might sound at this point.
No, that is true. It can be a bit like, if you look at too many things at the same time, you may think, well, how are they even related?
But most of it is just comes back to one or two core things.
Yeah, core beliefs and stuff.
Yeah, among which beliefs. Yeah.
And I mean, they can come from either like something we've talked about, like from perfectionism, from the feeling of like you're not enough.
And the perfectionism stems from the belief in origin. Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, makes you also realize how these things are necessarily interconnected.
Yes.
And and if you try to be as honest with every experience, not only the ones from your body, but also from the mind, then you will usually end up at a more informed thoughts and informed decisions.
Yeah. Conscious, aware, as I like to call it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's very sweet. Interesting.
I was so enthusiastic to talk about holistic coaching because it's not at all the norm yet. And at the same time, it's like, whereas I feel that we can all benefit from this expanded perspective.
Yeah.
But then again, there are so many things that tie in with it, you know? It's like, where do you start? So I understand that. Because there's a lot that ties in with it.
Where also when people don't feel well, right, you can also now think about, well, you know, it's not just your feeling. It's like, well, do you even sleep enough? Do you, like, what things are you consuming? Are you eating the right food? Are you moving enough? And all these things also tie into all the rest of the health aspects.
Yeah, true.
And I think also for maybe that is where it can bridge a little bit the gap of just raising a lot of awareness to your body and your own personal needs, I think.
Yeah, and what you said earlier, it's about there has to be a certain willingness, but also a certain courage, I guess, that you have to bring with you when you start observing your own workings a little bit more.
Yeah, it can be scary.
It can be scary. Yeah. And fear is not humanity's greatest friend, obviously.
Usually
so
isn't
no, exactly. So I mean, it does take a certain amount of courage and willingness and also persistence to go down this road, and you know. But
who knows? Maybe at the end of it is your adventure of your life.
Well, yeah. I mean, you certainly get to know yourself a hell of a lot better. That's already
that's a big step.
Super. Yeah, that's just crucial in my mind. Yeah, I mean, again, that ties into self-awareness and self-knowledge, and then you can make more informed decisions.
Yeah. Nice.
But also what you just said about so many different aspects tie in with it. You can look at nutrition and all of that, but a lot of people do that. They think, oh, you know, I'm going to change, like I'm going to move about more, or I'm going to meditate, which is all in itself just fine. Just make sure you're not using it as a relief of symptoms, because it will still be interesting to see, okay, but where is that unrest within you coming from?
Yeah, I think that can also stem from a way of, some people call this stuff nowadays, I think, biohacking. Where they,
where they
I've try to like really get into, if I just like take these kind of vitamins more and this thing a little bit less. And it's also, again, you know, you can ask yourself the question, is this then really from the perspective of I want to be my own best friend?
Yes, exactly.
Or is this again from I need to perform and do?
And exactly. And now you're touching again upon an interesting point, because then we're back to, with what energy or intention are you doing the things you are doing? That's a very interesting question we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, why is someone working so hard?
Yeah. I mean,
maybe because that person subconsciously is still looking for recognition from one or two parents, or wants to be seen, or is insecure and is trying to compensate. You know?
Yeah. So it's really interesting how these inner motives all relate to these stuff.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Yeah,
so
there's you're welcome.
I think it's a very interesting conversation. It's interesting to really take from all this mental approach that is coming in.
There's so much more.
Take the rest into account.
Yeah, there's so much more, people. Let's move beyond the mental and even beyond the emotional and the physical, and
I think that's a very, very important and interesting thing to think about, where having a little bit more of this bird's eye view and trying to take everything in you can and comprehend it. I think if this resonates with you, maybe holistic coaching can be something interesting.
Exactly, yes. And if you are open to developing more self-awareness and using your own consciousness basically as a guide as well, you know, to make different decisions. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think it was a
You're welcome.
Conversation.
Yeah, so did I. I really enjoyed it.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot.